Hello guys, welcome to Air Tycoon Online 3. This is gonna be episode 11 now. So, if you guys have a very keen eye, you might have actually noticed that I've switched servers. I'm now on channel 183. And the reason for this is my friend wanted to play with me. He is Flight 1 or Avies. And because he wanted to play with me, he wanted to, start at the same time so we could have an even shot at, you know, high ranking or whatever. I'm pretty sure I will finish above him nevertheless. But basically, one very interesting thing that has happened for me is I'm first on passengers, and believe it or not, I'm actually first on my rank too. It just hasn't updated properly to put me there. As you can see, my value is 1.05 million, while nobody else is that close. And I know I'm the highest value because I know nobody else has managed to hit the 250,000 passengers mark. And the 250,000 passengers mark does grant you with a very nice bonus of, I think it is 150,000. So thanks to that bonus, I'm almost sure that that I am actually indeed first place. Now, so what am I gonna do this episode? So first of all is I'm gonna remove these two routes. I basically only had this route with the purpose of you getting enough passengers to unlock that 100K or 150,000. Basically, yeah, I needed the 150,000 passengers, or not the 250,000 passengers, to get the 150,000 K for free. So I was using these larger airplanes in short routes basically to do so. And now I'm going to put them on actual more profitable long range routes as they were intended for, of course. So yeah, another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to buy some more aircraft. Now, I've been thinking long and hard about whether I want to use close range aircraft in large numbers, or do I want to use a few more profitable long range routes. And I'm going to go for a few more profitable long range routes because I find close quarters routes, or like close range routes, I mean, in this game aren't very profitable. Now, I don't have concrete evidence to back this up, but it's just the feeling I get when using short range aircraft is that I'm not making as much money as I could be. Now, I say that because while I don't have concrete evidence to back that up, I have been doing some math, and basically what I found is in this game, in order to get high level of services, you need to spend more in order to make what is it? To make short range routes, the services are basically a higher percentage of the ticket cost. For example, a short range route might have a ticket cost of $150, and the services to get it to 100% satisfaction, and therefore the maximum amount of occupancy you could get for that route would probably cost around $30-$40. That's like almost like 25% of the ticket cost is just paying for the services. So that doesn't leave very much to you, who, you still have to pay for the fuel, the maintenance, the depreciation. And on top of all that, you probably still have to be dealing with, I don't know, like airport expenses. There's just a lot of annoying expenses with not a lot of benefits besides a high passenger count for close range. While a long range ticket might be $700, you might be paying 80 for the services. Now, that's a much more reasonable ratio, as you can see, because now you're only paying 10% of your the ticket price for services, or slightly over 10%. But that obviously would mean it leaves a lot more space for the rest of the expenses and a much larger profit margin. So basically what I've found is I think I prefer close quarters routes almost no matter what. Or not, sorry, I said the opposite way. I prefer long range routes almost no matter what. And the only reason to make close quarters routes, as I have done, is in order to increase your passenger count in order to get the first few unlocks. Now, if you understand what I'm about to say, I think you're probably a pretty smart person. Um, but basically, one thing that's made me notice is if close quarters routes are in basically only there in order to unlock your my quest money. And what I mean by quest money is money I obtained from hitting these passenger benchmarks. So if I only use close quarters routes with the intention to hit these nice quests, and they don't make that much money, is making long range routes worth it from the very beginning simply because they make more money? I mean, using long range routes, we will eventually unlock those achievements anyway, just at a much later time since we can afford fewer aircraft and each aircraft is carrying fewer passengers per time because it's flying long range. So, yeah, basically, I was like asking myself the question, is it better to start long range or to start close range in order to increase your company size as fast as possible? Now, what I'm thinking is it's probably better to go short range than long range because here's my reason of thought. Okay, let's just say a close range aircraft, say the one I've been using, the Caravel, um, or whatever it's called. Let's just say that aircraft makes enough profit to pay its own value back in 90 years, or not 90 years, 90 turns. Let's just say a DC-8 flying on a stopover route will pay itself back in 45 years. I think that's probably somewhat realistic of an estimate. Now, for the long range routes, then, if I had all 600,000 of my initial starting money in this game invested into that, it would pay itself back quite quickly in 45 turns, as I said. But it would have the very large downside of I wouldn't get those unlocks for a while, um, and that's not good. Now, the other way I can do it is I can use my initial starting 600k in order to unlock the 350k in quests, and then use the money I get from the quest to open long range routes. Now, I think that's close to the best ideal possible since we have one portion of our money returning at a lower rate, but a smaller portion of our money returning at a higher rate, but more money overall, which is doing work for us. So basically, I feel like spending my first 600,000k um, on close range aircraft and close range routes um, in order to unlock the quest, in order to then buy long range aircraft for long range routes, is probably as close to the ideal strategy as I can imagine. Um, as you can see, I've probably given this multiple times more thought than anyone else probably would. Um, but at the same time, I feel like that's, as you have seen, allowed me to get first. Now, this is a situation where, right, I would like to buy a long range aircraft, but there's no long range aircraft in the price range for the amount of money I have, so I'm probably just going to settle for another close range aircraft. Um, Obviously, these close range aircraft make more than zero, obviously, so just making that money, especially on a long term thing like overnight, is probably a good idea. Another thing we can see is if we do go into my routes tab, is how much are these planes making? Um, I have no idea the best setup, but my good routes like London to Pittsburgh are doing very well. 1.9k for one half of a stopover. I would say that is quite successful. Um, as we go down the list, a lot of these are quite successful. A lot of these are competition routes, but once again, they're only here so in order for me to have satisfactory name value to open new hubs. That's the only reason I have competition routes like London to Chicago. Um, yeah, so as you can see, once we start to get into the Caravel aircraft, the Caravel 1, these make about 1k, so about 1 million a turn. Um, but they kind of like go down. Like some of these Caravels are not making good money. Like especially the very close quarters ones, and I think I'm just gonna close them. in favor of making slightly longer range routes. Um, yeah, as you can see, I'm just gonna close these routes with no aircraft. Of course, there's no point in having that. But like, yeah, see the lowest profiting caravel is only making like what is this, 593K. Like I'm not sure if that's worth keeping. I'm not sure if it's because the price is too high or the route is new or something like that. Like I can check, or the service satisfaction is really bad. That might be it. I might have accidentally misclicked and not had good service. So yeah, that's probably the reason. This has good service satisfaction, as you can see, but the business class is empty. That's competition, though, so that's expected. Let me just check. I haven't actually looked at my routes in detail. London to Dublin, that just has bad um, occupancy. The route's not only 3 turns old, so I think it'll still get more popular in the future. But yeah, as we can see, the vast majority, I'd say this is probably the start of the majority of the caravels are making enough money so that I wouldn't think they're too bad. Like this is obviously pretty bad. Um, I would hope for a lot more than that, but I guess that's acceptable. That's an acceptable amount. Uh, what are these aircraft doing? These are making very little. Um, I don't know why. Maybe it's new. No, this route is quite old. It's existed for quite a long time. I just don't know why it's not making very much money. Maybe the fare is just too high, or it's just not a lot of schedules. But as you can see, my net profit decreased a lot actually by increasing the price, which is interesting. Um, I'm not sure why that is. Maybe there's some event going on, um, which I don't know about, which has caused the like some of those like world news events. I think they actually do have a effect. I never pay attention because it's only 1 or 2 routes. But yeah, for some reason these routes are not doing very well. I really don't know why though. Like 100% service satisfaction, I feel like it should be making more money. You know what I mean? Like it's not a big deal that it isn't. Like doesn't affect me very much at all because out of 50 routes, if 5 of them aren't doing well, yeah, I could be doing better by trying to make those few routes do well. But honestly, it's probably not even that worth it. So another route I probably want to make is London, using London and Memphis, and to where was it? I don't know where it was. Well, Rehab. There it is. That's probably another route we can make. Of course, we still have a lot of DC-8s. I actually got to use all of them. Don't know where yet. I'm very curious to see if my profit's gonna creep up overnight. Um, let's see. Gotta do that. And once again, I'm increasing the price where I don't recommend increasing your price to high levels on the first turn when you make a route because it's not going to fill up. But I'm just doing this because I'm going to go to sleep after this video. So because I'm going to sleep, of course, it's going to increase throughout the night anyway. So might as well um, set it to the price, which I would like it to probably stay at. I'm not sure though. I'm going to show you guys in a second how I like to use my like adjust all tab basically. Tampa. I want to do Tampa to London, and then where can I finish my stopover in? Then I can probably do something like London to Baghdad. That seems decent. London to Baghdad. Of course, these stopovers don't have too many too long of a range, so I'm not gonna get the best value. Um, in case you guys didn't know, if you're making stopover routes, in order to maximize the efficiency of your stopover routes, you should find the longest range possible before the amount of schedules decrease. For example, if find a route using stopovers that has 4 schedules a week, you want to find the range of both routes combined, which make up that stopover route, and just keep finding new routes which increase that range until it switches to say 3 schedules a week from 4. Then as close as you can get to the range where it's switched from 4 to 3 will be a range which your routes will make a lot of money. That's the reason why some routes make more than others, even though they're the same plane and both planes are 100% occupancy. It's just a matter of how efficient the schedules fit in, which is not really realistic, um, but it's just something that happens in this game, which is pretty interesting. So I thought you guys should know. Like, for example, one of my friends was playing with um, the Lockheed like 1049 or something, which is a 0.45 Mach propeller plane. Now, it sounds like complete garbage because you won't be able to get a lot of schedules. But in fact, there is a little bit of a niche which can make it work okay. And that is if you maximize the range where you still get 3 schedules a week. For example, we found that a route like New York, which was his hub, New York to Seattle to Tokyo managed to get 3 schedules, but even a little bit farther, like Seattle to Beijing, and all of a sudden you're at 2 schedules. Um, so that means, of course, the 2 schedule route would make literally 50% less than the 3 schedule route, because the ticket prices almost don't change, increasing, the range from Tokyo to the range to Seoul. The extra range is like, I don't know, like 500 kilometers or something. It's not significant. The ticket price isn't going up much, but your schedules are halving. So you're basically making nearly 50% less for the 2 schedules a week and nearly 50% more for the 3 schedules a week. So that's just something I found interesting. For example, those um, L1049s on close to max range were actually pulling in 1K a turn. So very similar to a Caravel 1, quite efficient. But meanwhile, um, there were other ones which, the range wasn't so precisely maxed out, and they were actually pulling very poor profits, like as low as, 600K, which is much lower than my average Caravel. Um, my average Caravel is probably around 780 to 800K. So that's just something I thought was interesting, and you guys should probably might want to keep in mind. Once again, if you know what I'm talking about, good job, because it's actually quite complicated what I'm like the meaning I'm trying to convey right now. And don't feel bad if you don't understand it, because I actually think that most people might not even be understanding um, what I'm saying. I don't know if that's kind of patronizing, but like honestly, I don't explain things as clearly as I should, so I don't blame anyone if they can't understand what I'm saying. So I can't actually find decent places to end my stopovers. I could do Doha. Let's do Doha, or I could do Abu Dhabi. Let's do Abu Dhabi, because it's kind of cool. I don't know if it grows later on, but let's do it. I'm sure it's big enough to maximize the efficiency out of a DC-8. Which can I lease more? No, I cannot. And 19K is unfortunately not enough to buy any new aircraft. So this will be, let's see, I have a Caravel 1 too. So let's use this Caravel 1 from London to Luxembourg. Now, it's not going to be the most profitable route because it's very close range. But what it um, is that London to Luxembourg, I expect to bring in a lot of passengers, which will bring me closer to that 500K passenger milestone. Um, and 200K is a lot of money to help me out, basically. One thing I wish is that leveling up in this game gave you a little bit more money than it does, actually. Because if leveling up gave you a little bit more money, then it wouldn't feel so bad, you know what I mean? Like right now, you level up, and it kind of feels bad. Like I'm level 2 now. Requests take a little bit longer. Nothing's quite instant, and it's like it's chill. You know what I mean? Like whatever, it's gonna happen. I don't have a lot of money every turn, so it's not a big deal that it happened, but it still feels pretty bad, and it'd be really nice if you're compensated with something to make it feel a little bit better. Like for example, if it gave um, I don't know, like 100K then I would rush for higher levels because that 100K could help me get my company moving faster. But the way it is it just slows you down when you hit the new level ups, so I don't really like it. Yeah, so one thing I'm gonna do before I end off is I'm just gonna check and go over my financial report. So as you can see, total income up 9K, total expense up 4K. I expect my net profit to increase to 20 or 30K tomorrow morning. Maybe that's optimistic, but a lot of aircraft I know were not on their ideal routes. For example, actually, I'm pretty sure I still have London to Paris cargo with minimum price. Yep, and I'm gonna close that route. That route was only there um, for increasing my cargo numbers, basically. And let's find a better cargo route for that. Um, so I want to maximize money. So I want medium to long range. I say medium to long range, but I merely mean just medium range. Um, and that looks perfect, London to Moscow. So all I'm gonna have to do is order some slots in Moscow, order a depot in Moscow, and this kind of range cargo route with this level of business will basically yield good, very good. Why won't it let me order cargo storage? Hold up. Open the airport. Open sesame. Please load. There we go. Um, I really. Oh, I bet I can't order that things until the slots arrive. I see. That makes a little bit more sense. Yeah, basically for cargo routes, I've probably said this before in many videos, but only strictly look at the what's it called? At the business numbers for reference for how well the route's going to do. And holy crap, I have a lot of DC-8s now, with most of the majority of them still being leased. Um, it's actually quite interesting how many leases I have. If I have 18 and I can see that 5 of them are not leased, that means I have 12 leased aircraft, which is probably one of the highest. And leasing, in a sense, directly lowers your value, if you think about it, in the short term, because it costs money and doesn't grant you any value immediately. You buy a 70 million aircraft is still worth 69 point something million the next turn. So it doesn't decrease your value very much instantly. While if you do a lease, you pay a down payment for it. So that down payment is literally a direct like subtraction from your value, basically. And yeah, I'm still first. So that means I'm doing something right by a decent margin. Um, yep. Basically, I'm doing something right because I've decreased my value by over 150K just from leases. That's some rough math. I don't quote me on that. It might be less, it might be more by plus minus 10 20K. And by 10 20K I mean 1,200K or 10,000 12,000K. Um, yeah, hopefully you guys are smart enough to figure out what I mean by a margin factor of 1,000. Um, yeah, basically, I lost my train of thought just completely right there. I'm sorry, but yeah, I'm able to be first even though I've leased so many aircraft. So that tells me the other people on the leaderboard are leasing themselves, um, or I've just managed to generate more money than everyone else at this stage, which is a pretty cool thought. I think this is definitely a world in which I should be able to eventually come in first place in. Um, from what I can tell right now, the best players are me and my friend Aves. Um, I this S Global guy actually is probably a pretty good player. I see right now that he has 42 airplanes and 50 routes. So that also means he's been making a mix between close range routes and long range routes. He's been leasing and that kind of stuff, or he's been using credits, of course. That's always a possibility. So that tells me he's a good player. Flight 1, of course, a good player. He's my friend. I've been helping him. And Cathay Pacific looks decent as well. But other than that, there's a few strong contenders. This Korean dude, this Chinese dude is okay, you know. This person, I don't even know what flag that is. Yeah, there's only a few good players, basically, from what I can tell instantly. Of course, good players could join in later. I'm somebody who likes to join, 1970 ish and try and get to first because it seems like a really fun climb. But that's probably not going to be the case for this game, as I'm starting first. So, I would think I was first, like the second turn of the server or something like that. And I stayed first for a couple before dropping because I kind of failed on my quest. Basically, I like to cut it close on my quests because, you know, I don't know why, but like for example, when I achieved this previous quest for 150,000 passengers, um, I had 150,400 passengers, and then for this one, I tried to get it the next turn, but it was 340,000. I just fell a bit short, or I had 240,000, not 340,000 passengers, and I fell a bit short. And then the very next turn, I was like, okay, I'll increase it. I'll make a route specifically to increase it. And I came up with 24,900. Wait, what am I saying? 249,885 was the exact number of passengers I had. So I was like 150 passengers short. Literally, if I had made my business class one smaller and my economy class, therefore 2 seats larger, I would have been able to do it. But I wasn't. But, anyways, that's enough rambling. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode, and I will see you guys next time.